And I only used this guy's name because I couldn't think of anyone else off the top of my head. I said, what if Chip Foose were to walk by and look in my car? There's a photo. I said, I mean, God is my witness. I literally said multiple times, what if Chip Foose were to look at my car? What would he think? Would he think that young kid worked really hard at what he does? Or uh, he decided to sleep or go out on Fridays or whatever? You know what I mean? And I literally used Chip's name, not knowing that, again, foreshadowing that we were going to have like an actual
Yeah.
hangout time.
Mr. John Ludwick, man, how's it going? Are you cooked?
As cooked as I'll ever be, I think. Well done.
Man, it's been a hell of a ride for you. I've been following you, obviously, been following your exploits. I watch everything you put out, and I've noticed that you've been getting quite a lot done off camera, which means you are literally busting your ass. How did which leads to reward, right? You know, you work that hard and you get to accomplish something. I was watching your most recent episode, and you're on camera and you're walking up to the truck where the Audi is. It's in there. And I can see that you are beaming, man. I can see the joy on your face. I can see it. I can see the gears turning in your head. How were you feeling at that moment when you were on the SEMA grounds, walking up to pull your car out of that truck and bring it into the show?
I don't think I have like the answer you or anyone listening to this would want to hear, because I know where that answer is, but I think I was just in logistic mode, because leading up to that clip, we had flown 6 hours to Vegas. We'd gotten up at, I don't even remember, 3 a.m. And even though the car had left a few days before we flew to Vegas, there was still lots to do. The car left in such a hurry that I was still designing and laser cutting parts for the car, and then obviously packing camera gear. You know, just it was like it was a rat race right up until 3 a.m. when we left. So to fast forward to us seeing the car, we had gotten an Uber to like a random business across the street from the backside of Central Hall where all the trucks were unloading, and the truck driver has an 80-foot setup, and he's trying to, dude, I've been to SEMA plenty of times before, and I've seen the chaos, the circus that's out back while people are unloading, but I've never been like immersed in it and tried to like logistically figure out where my truck is, where my car is. And so I was on the phone with him. We're trying to get through. There wasn't really any security. It's such a circus. You can basically just walk in there. And at that point on Monday, SEMA starts on Tuesday. And so when I started filming, I hadn't even taken the time to like film before we went to the convention center to like have a few minutes to be like, hey, we made it to Las Vegas. We're good. So instead, it was in the midst of this circus, and everyone, I mean, it's hundreds of vehicles unloading and stuff like that. So when we saw the truck, I just started filming. And so in my head, it was, has it arrived in one piece? The truck's in one piece. The dude's killer. Yeah. Nathan from Sterling Transport. That guy's an MVP, veteran SEMA car transporter. Took great care of the car, but I was just worried about the car itself falling apart, just driving all the way to Vegas in a trailer. The shop dust is still on the car in this clip. I don't even know where to begin. I mean, I guess, yeah, you're right. It was surreal. It totally was. There's two sides of that coin. I feel like the coin was like that last clip of Inception where the top is just spinning and you never see which, if it topples or not. You know, it's like one side was, this is insane. Both in the way of the amount of work that my father and I did and some friends leading up to this point, and we got the car in the trailer, but also it's in the trailer and it's at SEMA. And also the fact that I was just so cooked that it was just, I was on autopilot at that point. Like, go help him like unstrap the car. I helped him get this crazy C8 IMSA road race car off the trailer because he needed a spotter. The car was so wide. So we were just immediately in work mode. So my car was the next one out, and it was just work mode. Yeah, that's that C8. I think the beginning of that clip, you can see the. Oh no, I guess not. I guess I might not have started. Yeah, there it is. Yeah,
I
so
was
there's a.
wondering about that. I'm like, where did that clip come from? Like, what's
And I didn't
going
have
on?
any context of that clip because I forgot to film. Again, I'm an autopilot. I forgot to film how crazy that car was. Nathan was like, because it was up top. It was up top in the
Yeah.
trailer, and it was a it ran, but it was a sequence to get it running and all that sort of stuff.
Let me like readjust the context here
Yeah.
and ask it in a different way. What does it mean to you, or what did it mean to you before you even had the car there, to have a car shown at SEMA, like an official SEMA car in a booth? Basically, you're representing it. How do you, is it Ro or Rova?
Americans know it as Row, but obviously being a German company, the W's got the V sound,
Okay,
so
so we'll
everyone
call it
calls
Rova. So,
it Rova.
a
Yeah.
company like Rova then is representing their company. They spend ungodly amounts of money to set up this booth, get your car there, have you there. And so it's a really big deal for not only for you, but for them and, and all the other people that are involved in the show. What does it mean to you to have a car there, to finish the car and get it there? What does it mean? And why is it important to have a car at SEMA like this for you?
Imposter syndrome with a capital I and a capital S. Um, it was, I think it's because of the car. Like my Toyota Century had an invite back years ago, but it was on me to get the car there and stuff. And it was like, well, that'd be a cool car to have there. And it never happened. But the 1000 SP is like something in my like lane of cars I like putting together, and to the untrained eye or just people who like paint and shiny things, it's just like a junk car, So there was a lot of conversations I had with Ken Mooney, who's the president of Rova USA, and there was a lot of like, there wasn't pressure. The pressure I put on myself. They've been at Apex, which is in line with SEMA across town, the same weekend as SEMA. So basically, your SEMA badge gets you into Apex. They've been at Apex with a booth for like 15 years or something like that, and this was their first time having a booth at SEMA. So there was a lot of like pressure, for lack of a better word, on that. But they were also at Apex, so they were like putting the marketing budget into this, because having a booth at neither of those is cheap. So with that added on to the mountain of stress, and they made it a breeze. So I need to say that Ken and the whole Rova team were just like, bring it as it is. Like in July, like when I gave the final yes, beginning of the year, Ken called me, hey, we want to have one of your cars at the booth. We're going to be at SEMA this year. Like, yeah, okay. Nothing. I should have set things in motion then, but there's nothing set in stone. So I worked on that Buick LeSabre and like random stuff
Yeah.
throughout the
Yep.
year. So come July, Ken calls me and he's like, hey, just got off the phone with the booth builder. We got our booth design like getting built around your car. Are you in? And I'm staring at the car in the shop and I went, yes. It's literally one of those like say yes.
Is it like this? Yes. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like head in hands type. Yeah, so I knew it was going to be a marathon at that point. And but
That
Ken,
must have been right around the time I called you and I was like, hey, man, come to the rally. Come out to Sports Car Vacation Land. Come do this other stuff. And you're like, and I think you had just started to realize the gravity of the situation that you put yourself in.
yeah, I was definitely disillusioned thinking that we were going to, because we spent 2 weeks in England in July as well, helping my buddy bag that Volkswagen SP2, and I'm glad we did it, but it was 2 weeks away from not getting any progress done on the 1000 SP, and I canceled all other trips except that one. And even Kayla was like, "Do you really think we should go over to England for 2 weeks with the amount of work you have to do?" And I kind of said, I think I'll need this. Like between now and November will be nothing. Like I didn't even have a chance to bring on any commission work. Like I made no money for 3 months building this car and literally just hemorrhaged from all orifices basically to get this car done. And so, yeah, so to finally answer your question, it felt actually unbelievable to have a car at SEMA with all of those variables considered. All of that considered, like having to miss the rally, when you, Jeff, Jake, and I had talked multiple times about being a bigger part of the rally this year. And such, it was something I was looking forward to in a big way. And I know that the SEMA thing took precedent, like immediately midsummer.
Yeah.
And it had to, with the amount of work that, like, it was just me. It was just me. And my dad's always been there. He's always wanted to help. And when he literally drove Kayla and I to the bus station to go to England for 2 weeks, he literally said before they drove off, when you come home, I'm going to help you on that car and get it ready for SEMA. And thank God he did, because it wouldn't have made it. It wouldn't, like, if it did go, which Ken was willing to. Ken was like, just bring it as it is. And I was like, as the builder of this car, it cannot go as it is. When he said that to me in July, because he saw the car, he's like, it's great. And I'm like, thank you. Like, they did everything they could to relieve a lot of that pressure, because they did trust in me, and trusted in, is that my phone? And so that trust I carried heavily. You know, I wanted to make sure this car was as good as I could have it. And I know this is a little bit of foreshadowing, but I'll say this now because I know we'll probably get to this. But it's so crazy, because I said this to my dad, and I said this to Kayla. I said this to a handful of other friends, to the point where if Kayla heard me say it, it probably got worn out. But I said, what if, and I only used this guy's name because I couldn't think of anyone else off the top of my head. I said, what if Chip Foose were to walk by and look in my car? There's a photo. I said, I mean, God is my witness. I literally said multiple times, what if Chip Foose were to look at my car? What would he think? Would he think that young kid worked really hard at what he does? Or he decided to sleep or go out on Fridays or whatever? You know what I mean? Like, and I literally used Chip's name, not knowing that, again, foreshadowing that we were going to have like an actual hangout time, you know? And so
one thing I do when I've been to SEMA a few times now, and I'll walk around and I'll look at people's projects, and the first thing I look is like, are the spark plug wires hooked up? Is the MAF plugged in? Like, right. You look at all these things. Does the car run? Does it run? And it's got to be like 25% of the time, no. It's got to be. So it's like something where it's just like, it doesn't run. So and I think most people do that. And for someone that's a builder, you don't want a guy like me walking up and being like, dude, I can see from here that there's no fuel lines hooked up to those carburetors.
I was worried about guys like you.
Yeah.
Like, I was worried about guys like you. Like,
those airlines aren't hooked up to anything. What's going on here?
Yeah. And after going through what I just went through, honestly, needing a team, like I needed like a team of people. I mean, luckily my dad and I pulled it off with some help of some other friends, but like, I understand now why. And you like, there's tons of different rooms of this conversation of quote unquote unfinished SEMA projects. There's all sorts of different stories and variables and timelines and stuff. But in my timeline, I understand why some cars are there without spark plug wires, because mine had no reason, or had really no reason to have spark plug wires in it. You know, like it did. It drove off the trailer and drove to the door to queue up to go in. But like, that engine bay wasn't done. Like, not even close. Wiring was just zip tied to stuff. The truck was down the street waiting for us, and we could barely get the thing running from the driver's seat. And that was the last thing. I wanted the exterior of the car, the suspension, all the firewalls, sheet metal work, interior seats, door cards, pedal cluster. Like, I wanted everything in the car done, because if time ran out, if the sands of the hourglass had run out, at least the car would display well at SEMA. And I would be one of those guys who there's no spark plug wires, there's no fuel lines, there's no, and it would just be what it is. And I would just have to, muscle my way through the internet hate or whatever.
Well, a lot of times no one would ever know, but you would know.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
You would know. And that's what changes it from a sculpture into a machine. Right.
Yeah.
And things are never really done. It's just what state of closer to potentially done are they?
Yeah.
You know, like even this thing is like not done. Yes, it drives around, but it's not done.
Yeah.
What do you think SEMA means to car culture as a whole?
I think it means a few different things. Um, for someone like me who started a YouTube channel and has like a brand built around literally my hobby. Like I didn't start customizing cars because I had a YouTube channel, or it wasn't like what I chose to do on YouTube. You know what I mean? Like, oh, do I play video games? Do I open products? Do I do parkour? Or do I work on cars? Right. So this is like what I do.
John Ludwick, parkour extraordinaire. Let's do it, man. I'll pay to watch that.
And not after all the years of falling off my BMX bike. Won't
Next on
last long enough.
Patreon.
Um, for someone like me, it means like an opportunity to have FaceTime with industry people and companies. It's always been a great week to network, and try to bring on people that see value in what I do that would help me be able to continue keep the lights on or to continue keep the lights on doing what I love to do. Otherwise it just isn't sustainable. As it's like you couldn't do the rally. You couldn't like do everything behind the scenes of the rally and the podcast if it didn't make sense financially, because you wouldn't have the time to do it because you'd be working a job to bring in money, and so for guys like me, it's huge because you get a chance to see new tools, see new products on the market and stuff, but also get a chance to talk to
Yeah.
marketing managers because most of those companies are there to start those relationships as well. Which is something I didn't know well enough when I first started going to SEMA. It was more or less like it's SEMA, so it's like so much new industry stuff there. Let's do that. Let's go see all this stuff. But as a shop owner, you might want to see what the latest like fluids are, what's new in oil, what's new in performance turbos, go to the Turbo Smart or Garrett booth or something. So I guess
Does it have an impact on car culture, do you think? Do you think
I think it
it flows
does.
down?
Yeah, I think it does now more so that social media is so prevalent. I think in the early 2000s, it was more industry forward, and I think now it has a huge impact on car culture. This year specifically, I didn't know what on earth was going on. And like Hoonigan is normally the only set of guys outside that has like a burnout drifting demo thing. And this year there was multiple outdoor burnout pads where there were multiple vehicles all at once just spinning around, running into each other, doing burnouts. And I was
I
like, what
think
is
they're trying to open it up to a more general public type of thing, which I think
yeah.
inevitably is going to have a bigger impact on culture. I think one thing that I like about SEMA, and there's a lot of things I don't like too. Just wrote an article about this thing. Is that I kind of, when I look at the classics, one of the things that people love to do is they like to take the classic car and they like to try to do something new, which is very, very hard. The
Yeah.
more popular a car is, the more calcified what you're allowed to do with it has become, just from like what the internet and what car culture will permit you to be able to do without getting flamed, right? And so a lot of people will take a ton of risks, and more often than not, they don't work.
Yeah.
More often than not, they don't. But every once in a while, you'll get something that does work, and it becomes like it becomes special. It becomes like canon. It becomes something that will make an impact. I don't know. I haven't had a chance to look back and see all the cars that were at SEMA this year. I just was kind of accosted by social media. That green Mercedes comes to mind of something that I was like, oh my God, yikes. But
Yeah.
at the same
600.
time, yeah. But at the same time, I look at that thing and I go, what an unimaginable, as a guy that's built a car, unfathomable amount of work went into
Yeah.
that car.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Exactly.
it's it's not my style, and
Me
I
neither.
and I would never choose to have a poster of that hanging in my garage. But the craftsmanship is unreal.
Yeah.
I think
I
that's one of the lessons of SEMA is the craftsmanship and the handiwork there is just off the charts.
Yeah, I think that's my favorite part. Aside from the whole networking aspect of it, I think my favorite part is drawing inspiration and motivation from people's work. There's a shop from Arizona. I can't remember the name of the shop, but it was a truck that was in the Resto Mod Air booth, and it was a Diamond T. It was like a 19 50s, 40s or 50s Diamond T, like semi truck, that had a twin axle frame that Porter had built. And it was just the most, I didn't get a chance to walk around much, but I went to that truck more than once, multiple times, because it was just the most insane thing I'd seen. Bell crank shock placement for both axles. Apparently there's a lot of tech in that thing that I wasn't aware of, like the tandem axle, like the tag axle is like, they can like on the fly, like put pressure on it for towing. Like they can like, it's a dynamic setup on the fly for towing. So it's actually functional for towing heavy trailers and stuff. So anyway, I say all that to say that, like, I drew so many cool ideas from someone else's work on that truck. Like the frame rails were pressurized. Like there were hard lines for the air system coming out of bungs, like on the frame.
Dude,
So,
that's dope.
um,
That sounds
yeah,
awesome.
that thing was crazy. Yeah,
Yeah, there it is.
was
Yeah,
wild.
scroll through a couple pictures of that thing, Mrs. Producer.
Yeah, I didn't
Like,
even
I
get a
think it
chance
was.
to really
I think
see that
it's
up close.
body dropped on a
It's
brand new Mercedes,
brand
basically.
new. Yeah, I read that it was a 2025 S63 or whatever the new S AMG is. Like brand new.
I wonder how much they had to stretch the chassis to get it to fit. The front end just doesn't work, though.
No, but I mean, you got to be a visionary of some kind to see that thing through, you know.
Yeah,
It's it's
again,
crazy.
it's insurmountable amount of work when I see stuff like this. I can't. I don't have anywhere near the skill to do it. 99% of that.
Well, now it's probably a multiple person
Oh yeah.
shop.
I
I
mean,
mean,
that's a shop guy, interior welding, body work,
right.
stereo, engine guy. I mean, that's a that's a concert right there is what that
I'd be
is.
remiss if I didn't speak up about this. The W100 600 is one of my all-time favorite vehicles, short wheelbase or the Pullmans ever built. So, I did cry a little bit when I saw what they had done to a W100 600.
Yeah.
But tons of work, tons of incredible work. But yes, personally, not my style. How dare you do that to a W100
I
600?
know. I'm trying to stay positive, man. I'm trying
I
to
know.
like
Yeah. I mean, even the white W108 that was in the Toyota Tread Pass as well is all wide bodied and just wouldn't surprise me if it came out of the same shop.
yeah, I'd like to build one of those someday. I mean, it's interesting thinking that thing existed at the same time or similar time,
Yeah,
maybe a
very
little
close. Yeah,
earlier than
there was a
this.
little overlap. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit of overlap. I'd like to have one.
Pullman. Oh, that's not a Pullman. That's a short wheelbase. But that is one of the dreams. It's just so nuts. People think they look like W108s, but when you see them next to each other, it's unbelievable how much wider it is, how much squarer the pillars are. They're just beautiful cars.
Okay, so I wanna rewind back a little bit to talk about your Audi. Um, talk to me about Auto Union and what the state when that car came out. What was the state of what we now know as Audi? Like, what was the state of the company? What were they doing? Why did that car exist in the first place?
Um, so I guess the like, I mean, I don't know all the details, but I did tell this story or this information thousands of times last week when people were
Well,
asking.
you're well rehearsed. Like, what the hell
Like,
is that? I'm sure is
yeah,
what the
exactly. Like a lot of people came to the booth because it looked cool, but also a lot of people came to the booth because it was a curiosity.
Mhm.
What is it? Where did it come from? Whatever. So, Auto Union, German car manufacturer, from the 20s, maybe the teens, but throughout the 20s, 30s, and 40s were not only producing cars in Europe, but setting like land speed records. Like they were a force to be reckoned with in motorsport. And Auto Union was four companies. It was Auto Union, DKW, Horch, and Wanderer. And those four companies were the four rings that build up the what is now the Audi badge. So that's where the four ring logo originated from. In 1960, when my 1000 SP was made, they ran that car from 60 to 65, but only made 5,100 of them ever.
Worldwide.
Worldwide ever. And 900 of them were cabrios. So 900 convertibles. So 40, I think it was 5,000 total. So it was 4,100 coupes, like mine. Look at
Yeah,
that. I mean,
that's the Avis, isn't it? Yeah, that's
uh,
got to be Avis
yes. Yeah, I can't
in
remember if the only
Berlin.
build that? Oh yeah, the track. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, or possibly even Mercedes. Mercedes had that high
that test
speed.
track. Yeah,
Yeah.
gosh,
So yeah, Auto Union was just like a
they were
force to be reckoned
monsters.
with.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and what's really cool about the
Which
1000
is
SP,
crazy though, thinking about coming out of World War II.
yeah.
All of a sudden this is what they're doing and the engineering that they're able to complete after being completely decimated.
Well, and
But
that's kind of like where the 1000 SP comes in. So visually, it has a lot of American styling to it. It's known as the Baby T-Bird because the rear end looks like a 57 Thunderbird. And I
yeah,
can't remember the guy's name that designed the car, but he spent time in America um, at like Ford and really, and you can see the
yeah. Wow, look at that.
similarities in the two. Even the rear end is even more uncanny between the two.
Is
The
this
size,
attributed to like a love of America, or just like wanting, or having been so withdrawn from the West, and we think of East Germany, that when it finally opened up, that Western thought and Western concepts were okay, that everybody's like, fuck, let's make a Thunderbird of our own. Like,
well, I mean, when you think about it, that wall coming down was 1989. So this was like
right,
in the
right, right.
height of the wall being up, and Auto Union, I think it was more relevancy than anything. I'm not a scholar on the matter, but it makes sense that they were trying to chase the American Fin era to be relevant to sell cars. Because Germany, this was 15 years after World War II, and Germany was a broken country. I mean, for goodness sake, the
Yeah,
USSR
they're
owned
decimated.
from half of Berlin east.
Yep. There's
So
there's pictures of like women. There's no men left. It's just
right.
women like moving rubble through
Yeah.
Berlin with buckets, like
Yeah.
hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. It was brutal.
Yeah. And apart from the relevancy in their design, it's again, I'm not a scholar, but basically it was important to America as well as other first world countries that Germany get back on their feet economically after World War II. Um, and this was only 15 years after World War II.
Right.
And there was still a real strong sentiment in America that ain't no one going to drive a German car. Like look what those guys did. And that was still very much, some people saw through that there were innocent people in that country and whatever. But be though as it may, German automotive manufacturers were not doing that well in 1960. People were buying Beetles and Volkswagens and
Yeah.
Porsches, the 356s and stuff were here.
Well, it's still, I mean, you had 400,000 Americans die in World War II, right? So, I mean, everybody knew someone that was gone. I mean,
Yeah,
everybody knew
sure.
someone that died, you know,
Yep.
their son,
And
their cousin, their friend, or whatever. And then that was the Germans that did it. And then you
yep.
see some guy driving around in a Beetle, you must kind of go, it's got to
Yeah.
make you think.
I'm sure that was going on. It had to have been going on because it was so polarizing because you only got information through the radio and the newspaper,
Yeah.
so
And the movie theater. You go to the movies, you see the bumpers in front of the movie.
and
Yeah.
all the propaganda. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So basically in 1960, when Auto Union made the 1000 SP, they were trying to get into the American automotive like market. They were owned at the time by Mercedes-Benz, much like, I don't know, much like who's an American, like I know Ford owned the majority shares of like Volvo back in like the early 2000s, but like that Volvo is not an American car company. But either way, Mercedes in 1960 owned Auto Union, right? So Auto Union had been sold off at some point, and Mercedes was keeping them going. Um, in 1960, Mercedes-Benz didn't have established Mercedes dealerships in America yet. American automotive manufacturers or the American government was trying to get automotive manufacturers in America to almost endorse German automotive manufacturers and bring them into the States to sell more of their cars to get Germany's ecosystem back on its feet and get the whole gears turning, right? And no one, from what I've read, really wanted to do that. Enter Studebaker.
Surprise. Like, why? It's
Right,
not a
exactly.
surprise.
Exactly. So Studebaker steps up and basically says, yeah, well, they signed a contract with Mercedes. So in 1960, and what's really cool is I had a 1960 S-Class, a W111 Fintail, And that car was sold at a Studebaker dealership in 1960. So if you wanted to purchase a Mercedes in 1960 in America, you had to go to a Studebaker dealership. Since Mercedes owned Auto Union at the time, if you bought an Auto Union or a DKW Junior, you bought it at a Studebaker dealership, which is crazy to me. That, and who knows, maybe it was European families that had migrated to America at some point, and they kind of knew more about the cars than the average American did. But it's crazy to me that my 1000 SP, which is a North American market car, it was sold here in America, that somebody in 1960 went to a Studebaker dealership and bought the front wheel drive 2-stroke inboard brake German car rather than a
Studebaker
Studebaker.
must have been desperate. I mean, they went out of business in the 60s.
Well, I
At
don't.
some point, right?
Automotive scholars would probably know way more than me. That was either a Hail Mary pass for them
It must have
to
been.
stay afloat, or it was basically the beginning of their demise. I'd imagine they were struggling by 1960 anyway.
If you are taking that on in that climate, you have to be struggling.
I would think.
You had to be floundering. I'm not a scholar on this stuff either. I'm just guessing. Why would
Yeah,
you do this unless you really needed it? You'd be seen as like a turncoat almost. Like an
maybe.
American company is turncoats, and all of a sudden they're selling these German, cars. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I really don't know what the climate was, through and through, because obviously there was a lot of people that probably held contempt um, over anything German or Japanese.
Anything. Yeah.
Um, and but there was probably a lot of people that, I don't know, like saw the importance of, or simply how good a German car was. There were
Right.
no front wheel drive cars in America at that point. We didn't see the Cadillac Eldorado until later on, right? I mean, that was in 1960. I think the auto unions were the first front wheel drive cars in America,
Well, if you
1960.
think about any of the old Porsche stuff, any of the old stuff like this, it was always owned by like some professor, some like chemist, or some smart guy, or it wasn't usually, or it was some famous race car driver or something like that. Of
Very
course,
true. Yeah, yeah,
very
yeah.
true. But it was always like for the regular guy buying them, most people went out and they bought a Mustang or a Chevelle or a Galaxy or something like that. But
Right,
it was always some like quirky dude that worked at the local college university that probably would have ended up with a DKW.
right.
It wasn't Joey Carpenter in the
Yeah,
union that was buying those things. Just that wasn't it.
yeah. It in that story, like the cars stories are what drive me insane sometimes. They don't drive me insane, but I ponder it quite frequently of who bought my 1000 SP from a Studebaker dealership in 1960? Who bought my DKW Junior I have at a
Who saw
Studebaker?
that ad that we're seeing right now? That was
Right.
probably an ad in Popular Mechanics or something, right? And they
Yep.
saw that and they went, "Damn, look at this guy. He's in the Swiss Alps driving this freaking auto union car. I gotta go. I gotta at least go test drive it."
It's crazy.
Some guy did that. Walked
Yeah.
in.
Yeah. And it blows my mind that someone drove off the lot with my car when it was brand new and chose that car over all the others for one reason or another. It's crazy.
All right, so tell me about acquiring your car. Your SP. Where'd this thing come from?
So, um, blessing or curse, after you after you've done something in the same way for a length of time, people start to know what you're into,
Ah,
right?
yes, yeah.
So, um, yeah, I mean, I like to say it's a blessing because when I was a kid, or when I first started customizing cars, and there's always that old timer in your town that has like 100 BMWs in the yard, and you're like, how did you acquire all these? Oh, so and so just wanted to get rid of it, and they found, they just, and I'm like, well, how do you become that person? Like where people just call you because they want to get rid of their car, or they found a deal or something. Well, turns out I've slowly been becoming that guy, and I got tagged on a marketplace ad. It was on marketplace. My buddy Gavin was the first one to tag me in the listing, and I may have sent it over. I sent over a bunch of photos, but I think they went in like a Google Drive or something. Okay, so that's the second one I bought because I had two of them. Um, there's a
Because you're
screenshot,
that guy.
dude. I think yeah, there's the two of them. Uh, man, I don't know if I sent the screenshot over. Basically, my buddy Gavin was the first of like 100 people on the day it was listed to tag me in it. But his post said, "Hey John, this car would look great over a Beetle Pan," because I'd put the BMW 700 over a Beetle Pan. Those were the actual marketplace photos. Those there, I saved them. Every time I buy a car, I always try to save the Craigslist or marketplace
Yeah,
photos
and a
just in case.
screenshot of the ad, everything. Yeah, I try to
Yes,
do the same
exactly.
thing.
Yeah, those are all in the ad. That's what it looked like. That's what I had to go off of.
And what
Um,
excited you about this, man? Looking at this thing is like, it's done. You look at that thing, you go, that thing is cooked.
um, the fact that it was so Auto Union of the 60s, of the 50s and 60s, never really did anything for me aesthetically. I like the juniors. The juniors are pretty cool, but they're kind of like a cartoony version of my BMW 700, right? If you see the 700 and the junior next to each other, there's a lot of similarities. They're a two-door coupe. They're a fin tail, like a rear fendered finned car, kind of the same size. 700 is a little bit smaller, but BMW just had that style. Like it's just style. And the DKW Junior is like a little bit more like clown car, not really, but in
Yeah.
comparison, kind of. The 1000 SP is like sports car. It's got a hood scoop. It's got the fins. It's a miniature looking 57 Thunderbird. And let's be honest, the 57 Thunderbird was a sharp looking car. And
I love how aspirational the SP looks. It looks like it's really reaching for something, like in terms of design elements and everything like that.
yep. To be fair, the photo we're looking at now, the bottom photo is when my dad and I dragged the 700 out of the woods and cut the trees down that were growing inside it. So that was before we straightened it out and all that. But yeah, the roof was all buckled and stuff. But you can kind of see what I'm talking about, even though the 700's like, in terrible condition in that photo. The 1000 SP was like the production race car. There's dimple dyes in places you didn't even know existed in that car. It was mind blowing when I started to pull the interior out and I started diving into. I mean, look at the comparison of the two cars in that photo. It's like the 1000 SP's just speed. Like it just
Yeah.
looks speed, even though it's a front wheel drive 3-cylinder 2-stroke car. But
It looks like if back in the day when something was supposed to be fast, like if you were watching Looney Tunes and it was supposed to be fast, it would just kind of like lean forward a little bit, and it would
right,
just kind of like tilt a little and start just like leaning forward, and the back would stretch out a little bit. Everything
right,
fast had to like kind of lean out of the camera.
yeah,
That's
and
what it
that's what
reminds me of.
that car did. And so that was the immediate draw because I love anything rare and that you don't see often, right? I mean, that's why I did the Corvair. That's why I did the BMW 700. That's why I did my Lada 2101. When that car popped up, I had to have it. Like I'd been tagged tons of times, and I was still living in Chattanooga, Tennessee at the time. And it just so happens that my dad was in town because we helped him buy a pickup truck down in Tennessee, like a rust-free, never seen salt pickup truck. And he had come down to pick it up and drive back to New Hampshire with. And he was there for a short week or about a week doing some maintenance on it before making the 1,200-mile drive home. And that's when this listing came out and everyone was tagging me in it. That's my dad leaning up against it when we went to get it. So basically, the next morning or that night, I messaged the guy, and the next morning, my dad and I were driving 10 or 12 hours one way to go get this thing. It was up near Cleveland in a town called Hinckley, Ohio, sitting behind this guy's barn. It was even on Google Maps. And you Googled his address, you could see it sitting along the wood line of his property. It's just, it looked good. Like the Auto Union 1000s are kind of ugly. They look like a Volkswagen Beetle. They're kind of like this bubble top car. Those are the Auto Unions you normally find if you look for them. Like it's just a 1000, right? Never seen a 1000 SP before.
Do you know what
Ever.
SP stands for?
Sport. Sport. I've got it.
Let's call it, just say sport purpose. Yeah.
I've got a 1960. Hold on one second.
Okay.
So I've got a the second 1000 SP I bought came with this. Oh, let me see. I think it's 1961.
It's just the same book that we figured out how much horsepower the DKW had.
Yeah, we already talked about this. Yeah, yeah. Oh, this has
Yeah,
made me
yeah, yeah.
sense already before. I think they talk about it in this book. But it was sport something, and I can't remember exactly. Yeah, exactly what it
Of course, it
was.
was probably in German too. So
Yeah. I figured if I could flip onto it real fast, I'd tell you. But it's yeah,
yeah, it doesn't matter.
sport something. Because it was that much more sporty than the 1000. You know, the 1000 was just a Beetle like competitor basically. So having never seen one before, knowing how rare they are, it actually looks good because there's a line I do draw, you know, like I don't want to like quote unquote build or slam a car that I think looks ugly because there's a lot of cars out there that I'm not into. I'm not into just everything that's rare. But this actually looked good. And the fact that it had the four ring logo on it is just the coolest because I'm a Volkswagen Audi. That's where I got my start was Mark 1s, Mark 2s, Volkswagens. And so in the quest for rarity, that's hard to do in Volkswagen. Like oh, Mark One Scirocco. You don't see those that often, but you go to a Volkswagen show and there's probably a few there. You know, you
Yeah.
go to somewhere like H2O and there's a whole paddock full of them.
Yep.
Um, so
Speaking
it's
of
hard.
which, I got 2 windshields for sale over here for Scirocco Mark Ones. If anyone needs one, brand new in the box, Pilkington, right there. Plug for me. 2 brand new windshields for Scirocco. I bought 3 because I need to replace 1. Now I got
Oh,
2. If you need one, hit me up. All right, carry on, John.
perfect. It's just hard because then you start looking in the European market. You know, it's like okay, so what do we not have here in America? And back in like 08, 09, when I started to like really start customizing cars more, um, that was a little bit easier because you didn't see polos. You know, you might see like a bread van, maybe. You know, so it's like bringing over Euro market models that we didn't get here was like the thing for a while. It still is the thing, but you'd be like the only one. Like,
The internet
when I,
makes the world so small, dude.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
it really does.
yeah. And the fact that more of these cars are eligible now to be imported legally. Like when I did my 2F Polo, I'm sure there were more here in the States, but I'd never seen a bagged one in the States. And that was like scratching that itch, you know, of like, ooh, let's do like a Volkswagen that you don't see that often here in America. This, this is like the layer that I wanted to exist in, where it's pre Audi. And to follow up on what Auto Union was, Volkswagen purchased Auto Union from Mercedes Benz in 1969. And that's when they dissolved the four companies and turned it into Audi. But because of how iconic Auto Union was throughout the previous decades leading up to that point, they left the four ring logo because of how iconic it was. So 69 was the advent of Audi. And that's also when Volkswagen purchased NSU and we saw the K70, which NSU built and manufactured, but then went bankrupt once they were all sitting at ports ready to be delivered. Volkswagen bought NSU out of bankruptcy and just slapped Volkswagen badges on it. And it's like, oh, there's a water cooled front engined front wheel drive car, which Volkswagen had never designed before or
Right.
manufactured before. And the acquisition of Auto Union is where we saw all the first Audis, the Audi 50, the C1100s. Those are longitude mounted front wheel drive inboard brake cars, which is literally what Auto Union was. So to go back on the 1000 SP, it was I have to get this car.
Did you
If
know it
you
existed before you saw it?
I'd
Did you
seen
know?
photos of them
Okay.
before,
Okay.
but had never seen, yeah, had never like taken the time to absorb what that car actually was. Like the second I saw that marketplace listing, I nerded out. I was
Yeah.
Googling everything. I was just absorbing everything that car was
Did
at
you
the
know the
time.
vision you were going to have for the car when you got it? So you get it, you bring it home, and you're like, okay, this on a beetle pan. How do you go from there to where you are now? Like, is it like an evolution? Do you decide everything you're going to do ahead of time? How does that work? Like, how do you decide what you're going to do?
The vision stayed the same. I even mentioned it to my dad when we were at the car, like when we got to Hinckley, Ohio, and we were walking around the car for the first time and kind of taking it in. Uh, I even said to him, because I was living in Tennessee at the time and my dad is living in New Hampshire. So I was working on everything by myself at the time. And I had never dove into mega fabrication projects by myself like that before. My dad's helped me on a lot of those projects. All those cars, like the roof chop on the Corvair and the 700 and anything else I built, was always in my dad's shop. And even if I did most of the project myself, a lot of the big projects my dad and I did together. So I remember saying to my dad when we were picking that car up, like, this one's going to be a serious project to put on a Beetle Pan. Not just because I'd be taking it on myself, but just looking at the car, it's like everything underneath it's got to go. That's the 1959 Volkswagen Beetle that I bought from my buddy Kyle in South Carolina that is currently underneath the 1000 SP. So that's where
So when you look at the 1000 SP, I'm trying to understand the structure of it. Is it a unibody car? Does it have a pan? Like, how does that car?
It's a frame car. That's the pan once I got it done. I think there might be a photo of the frame in those photos too. It's a frame car, and Auto
Okay.
Union was doing that to kind of keep tooling costs down across their model line. And the DKW Junior is on a very similar frame. The 1000 SP is on a very similar frame. The van that DKW built was on the same type of frame. They changed little things up here and there. Like the DKW has inboard front drum brakes with torsion suspension, much like a Beetle. And the 1000 SP has transverse leaf springs front and rear with outboard brakes, which was a little bit
Is
more
that the
race.
frame there?
That's the frame. Yes, that's
Okay.
when my buddy Ben had flown over from England for the week, and we decided to dive into that and separate the body from the frame. So that's the full frame with 3-cylinder 2-stroke front wheel drive setup on it.
Did you just decide to do the Beetle thing to make it harder? Why not just work with the frame that's already there?
The reason why I wanted to put it on a Beetle Pan the moment I decided to go get that car was parts availability.
Mm-hmm.
Like 100% parts availability. Because I like driving my cars. Like, yeah, I'm kind of entering this weird phase where I like, oh, we could talk about fab work shortly
Yeah,
too. If you want to
we
see like
will.
how
Yeah, we
crazy
want to get there.
that is. It I like driving my cars, but I'm entering this weird phase where I like looking at them more only because I've got too many and they all seem to break at the same time. So I'm like being forced into this weird bubble of like I'd rather just like open the garage doors on a nice day and just look at them, because it's like, oh, that needs
And
this.
maybe, just maybe, drive it. Maybe.
Right.
Just
Right.
to be able
To be
to,
fair, I do drive them all. I mean, I've been cross country the short way, north to south in the Corvair. I've driven the 700 4 hours each way to a car show. Like I put the miles down in these cars. This summer specifically, it seems like everything fell apart on every single car. So I think it's just this summer I've been like, I've done nothing but work on the 1000 SP. I hardly drove the Corvair. I hardly drove the 700. I just liked looking at them. I'd roll them out of the garage on nice days. So to answer your question, Beetle running gear, so I could buy parts for it, because there's 12 of these known to exist in North America and only 4,100 coupes ever built worldwide.
yeah.
And all of my automotive friends in Germany have never even seen one before, where they all came from. So there was a part of me that really wanted to keep the 3-cylinder 2-stroke front wheel drive because that's just cool. It's like you don't see any cars that run that. I really wanted to keep all that. And there was a point at which I hadn't cut the body up a ton yet when I found the second 1000 SP. So there was one on Craigslist in Nashville, Tennessee that came with a garage full of parts, extra engines, transmissions, and those transmissions are really crazy. If you think about it for a second, it's a 2-stroke, right? Which means
Yep.
the oil delivery is when you're giving it fuel. So when you're on diesel down a hill, you're up in the RPMs, but not giving it any oil, right? Because you're not
Right.
giving it any fuel. So these transmissions, much like the Trabants and the Subarus and the Saabs, a lot of the 2-stroke setups have a freewheeling aspect to them. So I think in the Auto Unions, 3rd and 4th gear will freewheel. So when you decel in 3rd or 4th gear, it slips into neutral and goes to an idle so you don't burn your motor out like decelling down a hill high in the revs. It's insane. Like I'm sure an engineer could dissect
Wait,
all
is it
that
some sort of
technology.
it must be like a centrifugal thing that senses when you're, or vacuum maybe? Like how does it
So
know that you're not on the throttle? Is it linkage based?
It's what they call like fluid coupling. And my W111 Mercedes had what they called a hydrack system in it. And this car was a 4-speed manual column shift car without a foot clutch. And it's very similar to the Beetles that had the auto stick.
Or Sportomatic
In a Porsche. Yeah, exactly. So it's a manual gearbox, but instead of a hydraulic or cable mechanically driven clutch that you apply, it's an electronic to vacuum to mechanical operated clutch system. And it's in the bell housing, instead of a torque converter, it's a fluid coupler. And basically it slips and it lets you come to a stop at a red light in gear without stalling. And then when you apply gas or throttle, that the motor lets all the fluid couplers like slip and grab, and it's crazy. It's like
Sounds just like a torque converter though.
Basically with like rudimentary things around it making it work. But it's a manual gearbox though. It's like when I basically the 60 Mercedes I bought a same year Mercedes that had a 4-speed column shift hydraulic foot clutch and did the swap so I could drive it. So I didn't break any parts on this bizarre hydrack system. Right. So
Right.
so having swapping the two of those, I realized, oh, they're the same exact gearbox. They just have different bell housings on them. So the 1000 SP has like kind of a similar idea, but backwards, where
sounds like a thing that's impossible to get parts for, is what it sounds like. So you put you're going to do the beetle pan, you're going to put the body on it, and you kind of have a vision for it. But I'm guessing like the fabrication kind of happens out of necessity as you go, because that's got to be a tough thing to foresee all the fabrication that you're going to have to make. So you get the body, you lower it over the pan, and then you start looking, right? And then you're like, okay, how am I going to make this work? For me, sometimes I think the mistake I make is I only see like one thing at a time. Like, okay, I have to solve this problem with this swap. And then I solve that problem, and then I move on to the next one. And I've already created new problems because of the way I engineered the solution to the first problem. That's my trouble that I run into all the time, is I can't see a big enough picture. And I don't know if that comes from impatience. Maybe I'm just moving too fast and I want to not working. I always want to kind of be moving forward. How do you deal with that fabrication process, and especially with this car? How'd you put it together?
So it started with not knowing how much of the floor, firewalls, front and back, I needed to cut out, because I didn't want to cut it all out if I could leave some. Like I'm not a professional car builder. I say this quite candidly a lot on the YouTube channel, and I usually get roasted like positively from people, but I'm not a professional car builder. So when I look at something,
Hold on. What is the difference between you and a professional car builder?
I guess when I say it, in my head, when I say it, I think of someone who's
like getting paid by someone else to build a car. Is that what it takes?
Yeah, I guess that's technically what the actual term would be.
Yeah.
I think of someone who is like, I don't know. Yeah, I guess
you're beyond hobbyist, dude. It's
yeah,
like,
someone who like is better than me or more knowledgeable or has been around longer, has done it more. You know what I mean? Like more seasoned.
Right, everybody roast John.
Yeah, please do.
As we've listened to this podcast, that's you. You're a
professional car builder
by that
definition. Fire.
All right, continue. You started looking at the firewalls.
I didn't know how much to cut out, right? So I didn't want to cut it from rocker panel to rocker panel across the whole floor, cut the whole floor out of the thing, which in hindsight, I should have just done, because that's ultimately what I did. So it was bring the body down to the pan. Oh, it's touching the transmission. Okay, cut out a hole for the transmission. All right, set it down more. Oh, now we're hitting the tunnel. All right, cut a section down the middle to let the tunnel hit, or clear the tunnel of the beetle pan. All right, now this is hitting. Now that's hitting. Now the frame horns are hitting. Now, so it ultimately, over the course of longer time than I should have just cut it all out, which I think someone who is more seasoned, aka a professional, would just cut it all out.
You were gun shy to cut it all out. You didn't
absolutely. Scared, gun shy, but also didn't know if I could use some of that structure. I didn't want to create more work for myself if I didn't have to. And I think a lot of people would probably traverse it in a similar way too, because it's like, well, if they had all the confidence in the world, they'd cut it all out anyway. But I didn't know how I was going to build this thing. So basically what happened was I had to cut everything out of the body. And as I went, I had to create structure, cross members. I had to cross brace it because that
It
body
just
would fall
becomes a
apart.
wobbly mess after a while, right?
Exactly. Or the glass would separate from the body. What you're looking at in that photo is ultimately a lot of the framework I built, but also how low I went with the car, because that rear window was a couple inches from touching the rear glass, or the tire was a few inches from
Yeah.
touching the rear window rather. So once I got everything cut out and temporary bracing all put in, I could get it down over the pan where I wanted it and then start building the permanent frame structure inside the body. It it kind of presented itself as I went, right? I didn't know when I cut everything out, I'm going to create the front half this way, to like the tubular front half, and I'm going to create the tubular back half this way to allow room for the motor. It was like, I need to do this, that, and a cross member here. That's a good photo. So that's the last photo before we painted everything and set it down over the pan. So that's ultimately what my frame looks like. And up the rocker panels are 2x2 inch box tube that go heavy duty 2 inch by 2 inch box tube that go up each sill, up the rocker panel to the front half, to the front body mounts. There's 4 body mounts up front on the Beetle pan, and there's 4 body mounts in the rear. And you can see some of them in that photo, but I had a big 1.5 by 3 inch cross member, that the big one that goes side to side at the back there with my firewalls. Up in the rear parcel shelf, that's all firewall. The open areas are removable firewalls. The vision was there at the very last few days before the car left for SEMA, because it was like, all right, the structure's done. It can now sit on the Beetle pan with strength. It can hold its own weight on the Beetle pan, but how are we going to create all the framework for firewalls? How are we going to create all the framework
From
for
the pan up?
exactly? And to back up all the way, surprisingly, and this blows everyone's mind, I had to shorten that Volkswagen Beetle pan by 2 full inches to meet the wheelbase of that 1000 SP.
Really?
That 1000 SP is a 2-inch shorter wheelbase than a Volkswagen Beetle. To anyone that has only seen it in photos, that is indeed how small that car is in person. A Beetle's a 94.5 inch wheelbase, and the Auto Union was a 92.5 inch wheelbase.
What was the most challenging part of this?
All, like the whole thing, like the importance of the structural integrity of the frame I was building in the body to withstand shock load and road vibration and be safe. Like that was, every time I saw a comment in an episode, like, you're overbuilding this, it was like,
Yes.
good.
Yes, I am.
Thank God. I gusseted everything. I triangulated everything.
You should see my welds. I've got welds over welds on my front subframe of this thing. I'm like, I look at it, I'm like, that's probably fine. It's like more.
Yeah. Every joint I made was like chamfered cut, so they were filled with weld.
Yeah.
When I could. When I first bought my CNC plasma table, which I had to learn how to use from YouTube and learn how to CAD design on YouTube and all that, I was CNC cutting 3-inch gussets, 2-inch gussets, 1-inch gussets, with 3-inch radius, 2-inch radius. Like I just plasma cut a whole bunch of radiuses. And that's some of the framework up front. So that's some of the panel work that I actually started bead rolling. So I put my first bead roll ever on anything in this car. Like, I'd never bead rolled anything in my life. And
what's a bead roll for people that don't know?
That line, that indent you see on that panel right there?
On a flat panel.
Yeah, on a flat panel. Yep.
Well, if you take a flat panel, you wiggle it like this, it makes that sound, right? Yeah. You put the bead roll on it, it adds all the structural
integrity. See the bead rolls on the floor and the floor pans? Those are the factory floor pans, and they put those there for strength. So that gives a flat piece of metal strength. What you're seeing there is my friend Chris, who had flown over from England a couple weeks ago to help me paint everything. Actually, him and his wife flew over for holiday, but I was like, I can't holiday. So Chris stayed in the shop with me almost every day.
I'm sure that was holiday enough.
He's a car guy through and through. Yeah.
What are you taking away from this project and the build and everything you learned? Like, what is the most applicable lesson you've learned to the next car that you build, whatever it is?
less scared, more certain of myself and my capabilities to dive into something, to not just be more efficient with my time, but also with like just like being headstrong about not being afraid to cut something out and rebuild it and have it be just as strong, if not stronger, than the factory did it. Because the way I have to like see it, and I know a lot of like quote unquote car builders, seasoned car builders, will see it, is these cars are all built by other men. Yeah, it was a team. Yeah, it was millions of dollars of R&D and like crash testing and like, yeah, it was like a big project. But like back in the 1960s, there wasn't machines welding this. Like people made all the dimple dies. They stamped the panels. They welded the
Had a
parts.
beer on their lunch break and came back and continued to work.
Prost.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I guess it's like, and even Mike Burrows and I talk about this a lot too. It's like he was pretty transparent about how poorly his 308 was put together from the factory.
Yeah.
It's like and once you start seeing a lot of that stuff and getting your hands in a lot of these projects, my takeaway is I'm I'm more headstrong with my capabilities and where I've drawn my line of like I'm good under this line. Like I'm totally capable, and anything beyond it is now uncharted territory, which is where I started this project. So I'm more confident with some of the new tools I have in my shop, which Woodward Fab had helped,
Yeah.
supply me with, like the bead roller, a shrinker stretcher. I'd used the metal brake before, but never had my own, and dimple dies. Like all I want to do now is put dimple dies and bead rolls in things, and like that makes your work look more professional, but also makes it stronger
Yeah.
and lighter. The dimple dies make the material lighter, but also give it its strength back. Um, yeah, it's been a blur. It's been a ton of work. Uh, Basically went broke getting it ready for SEMA. Just focused on the work necessary to get the car to where it wasn't an embarrassment to be there, or at least not that I would feel like it was an embarrassment. Um, but also to just order everything I needed. Oh, I need a universal fuse panel. Order. Oh, I need X amount of feet of 12 gauge wire. Order. Without, and I wasn't bringing on any laser work, any laser engraving commission work. I didn't have the time.
Yeah.
And I stayed filming and I stayed editing and I kept the episodes coming out as best I could. I saw it as this is the year I turned 40. This is the year I had a car that was me. It wasn't just like my Toyota Century that yeah, it was fun to bag that car, but like this car was like the first car I ever built mostly by myself. My dad, I couldn't have done it without my dad in the last couple months leading up to it, but like it, it was a lot. But the way I saw it was, it's like, whatever, this is like the year I sacrificed a lot to get this car done for SEMA, because Ken and the Rova team trust that this car is the right choice over literally any other car in their booth at SEMA. And this day one, when the gates opened and there wasn't 2 minutes without a crowd around that car all day on day one, I think that's when I finally realized, like, we did it. Like and it wasn't until that moment. It wasn't when I saw the car in the transport truck in that first clip in yesterday's episode. It wasn't when we backed it out of the shop for the first time. That was a huge victory. Backed out of the shop under its own power, drove onto the transport truck under its own power. It was like when it was parked in the booth, booth was built, cars done, cars aired out, and there's a crowd around it. And all that's left to do is tell its story. Was
Mhm.
like, all right. And yeah, there's not really a holiday waiting after SEMA. It's like time to get to work to like recoup financially from the last 3 months. But it was such like a character building experience to like know where my limits were, know what my capabilities were. And yeah, I don't know. And how humbling it was that so many people rallied behind me. Kayla, like
I was
cooking
just
food,
I
like
was just gonna ask about Kayla. That's something I
yeah.
wanted to touch on, and just ask you how important, because she's. I always see her in the background of what you're doing. She's always there. She's with you. She's got your back. I just wanted to like tell me about her a little bit and how her support helps you through all of this.
Yeah, it helps that she's like into cars, as you've known her a long time too. Like she understands it, which is great because when I said yes to this car going to SEMA, she saw what state the car was in when
She
like
knows.
I literally like was like, I don't know how I'm gonna get this done. And the whole way she had faith, like the whole way, even if I was like, she doesn't know what she's talking about. Like if I felt that, looking at the amount of work necessary, and she was like, you're gonna get it done. Like she trusted and had faith that I would get the car done, even when I didn't. Like there were so many like defeating days where I ended the day at 10:30 or 11 at night and had no more gas left in the tank, and I didn't get anything done because I had to just redo half the stuff I was trying to. Yeah, I just make something, cut it out, make something, cut it out, and then you end the day. We're one day closer to SEMA, and nothing's been done on the
Yeah,
car.
still an open loop. It didn't no
Yeah,
progress. You were
yeah.
right where you were that afternoon.
Or I stared at the wall all day trying to not wait on the muse, but like something to click, something to make sense. And the whole way she was like, you're going to get it, and it wasn't, she actually believed it. It wasn't just comments to keep me afloat in the moment. And yeah, and it was huge. It was a huge support system. She'd come home from work and just like make dinner, and I'd literally run up to the house, eat, and spend a few minutes and run right back to the shop. Or eat, and then I'm up here in the office editing tomorrow's episode because it's Saturday night and I haven't started editing and I have to get it done for tomorrow morning. It's I really, really love and appreciate the support from her because um yeah, I don't know. Like, I probably would have thrown it in the towel. I almost did. I mean, to be fair, I don't know if I told Ken and the Rova guys this. Like, there was a few times where I was like, I'm done. There's still enough time for them to find some other car to get in the booth. I can't do this. Financially, like taxing, spiritually and emotionally, even more taxing. Um, and I'm not the only person with this story at SEMA. I'm sure there's dozens of other people who worked harder than me or remortgaged their house to get the car done. I'm not an isolated event. I am just another victim of the SEMA crunch. Like every year I go to SEMA, I know someone that went through this, and it's like, oh boy, I'm so glad. Well, all we have to do is walk around with our backpacks and film stuff. And
Yeah.
it came knocking this year, and I answered, and we came out of it. There's a lot of work to do. There's a lot of recouping to do.
What's
But
what's the end game here? All right, this chapter is not closed. Obviously, the car
yeah,
has some work to do. I'm sure there's other things you want to do with the car. But what's the end game for you? Like ideally, where do you want to be? Like where does this all go? Do you know? Do you have a feel? Or are you just kind of like, I'm just going to keep doing what I love? Like how does this? Where are you going?
it's a mixture of both of those things, or it's a mixture of I'm just a kid with, I don't even know if ADHD is real, right? But whatever. For that, like that, like I naturally put all the irons in the fire. There's hardly anything smoldering in there, and I'm just piling all the irons in, right? So there's an element to that where I just don't know any other speed. I grew up playing music, and I had like more than one band at the same time. At the same time, I was riding BMX professionally and traveling all the time. And all my bandmates were like, when are you going to be home for a week so we can go on tour? And it's like, well, I don't know. And it's like I've always just been chaotic, but also driven to learn more and like refine my passion for things. So with the car stuff, the YouTube channel was never the goal. I got pushed into the YouTube space by friends who made it work on YouTube, and friends in the audience on Instagram saying, hey, it'd be cool if you documented these cars on YouTube because we'd love to watch the process, right? So those two things is what pushed me into that space. And then once it started to grow and started to pay a little bit of money, it's like, oh, like maybe this is the new path. Like I like filming, I like editing to an extent, and it's been a burnout lately, but it was fun. It's like, wow, it's actually pretty fun documenting these projects. Moreover, fun when my dad's a part of it, because now I've got video footage of my dad and I working on these cars. And when if things go the way they're supposed to, he'll be gone before me. And at which point I'll have all of this just stacks and stacks, hard drives upon hard drives of footage of my dad and I building these cars together, but also the comments of people talking about how they lost their dad, or they wish they could have done this with their dad, or don't ever take this for granted because my dad died earlier. It's like it's a constant grounding and perspective
John,
reminder.
I would do anything to go work on anything, any car, a lawnmower. I don't even care what it is. I could do anything to work with my grandpa on something in the garage.
Yeah,
Anything. I would
yeah,
give like all of it, all my
yeah,
material possessions to be able to go do that. And it's easy to say that kind of stuff when they're gone,
yeah,
but yeah, people are right.
yeah, and they are. I mean, and I was real close with my grandfather too, and I lost him 5 years ago at 89. He lived the full life, but it's like every time I'd come home with a new oddball car, he'd want to go for a ride in it.
Yeah.
Like I took him for a ride in my Lada. The thing had Russian instrumentation. But he was blind. He'd gone blind late in life, and so he couldn't really see the car. And he was telling me what it sounded like. It sounds like that old 4-cylinder John Deere tractor I had. It's like,
Yeah.
so I'd give anything too to have him back and like take him for a ride in 1000 SP. And so because he's gone, it's not because he's gone, but it's like I hang on to that even tighter with my dad now because it's like just my dad. And so
What do you think the reverse is for him? If you had to surmise, do you think he's aware that he's giving you these memories and these things?
yeah, he is for sure. Cause I think, I grew up in the garage. He owned an automotive repair shop, but he was racing Mark Ones, circle track, dirt and on the ice here in New Hampshire when the lakes freeze in the winter. And he was the sitting chairman of our ice racing committee and stuff. So I grew up at the tracks on Sunday, in the shop throughout the week, and my course went to music and then went to BMX and spent over a decade doing just that, and then came back to the automotive thing in a real like spectrum living way. It was just like I was obsessed. And then my dad and I's relationship went to a whole different level because now I'm trying to make my hobby that's also his hobby, like my living. And so he knows, yeah, because I call on him for so many things. Like when I was still living in Tennessee, I'd call him to just get his advice on what would you do here? Or it's not running right and it's doing this. What do you think? I call him before I Google things. And I usually start the phone call with, I know I probably could have Googled this,
Yeah,
but
I used to do that.
yeah, but because I can call him. He is on the other side of the phone. I'll use Google or AI or whatever cybertronic nebulous thing we have plugged into our face, like when he's gone. And he's not gone. So I'll use him. And so I know that he feels the same way because I don't want to say he's a man of few words because if you ever met him, he'd tell you story after story after story. He's just great to be around, and he'd light up the room talking about stuff and laughing. But it's been later in life that I've heard him say you should be proud of the work you did on that. Or perhaps I just never did any work that I
It's about time, John. Jesus.
yeah.
I've been waiting about 40 years for you to step up.
It could literally be that. It could also be that. But I know how like rare and far and few between hearing that is, and I hear it a lot more lately. And I think it's both because I've dialed in what I really want to do, but it's also I think my dad like just thoroughly, thoroughly just like thanks God that he has the time to do
Yeah.
this with me, and that we have such a strong relationship. He's one of my best friends. So as far as to come full circle with what's the end game, what do I really want to do? There is that element of just flying in the wind, throwing everything I got at the wall, just go, 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 do. Like new project. Oh, what's next? Like, oh, new project. Like, oh, something shiny. Let's do that. Or
Bus.
rusty in my case. Yeah. But I think it's also now that I'm in it and there's a foundation under this whole thing now and the cement's starting to cure a little bit. Um, I've had the unbelievable unbelievable experience to have like partners with what I do. There's companies that like see the value in what I do. So there's been parts, there's been tools, there's been money, there's been financial help, there's been things that I never, ever, ever would have thought I would have been eligible for or even had the opportunity to have. So I've kind of taken these opportunities and tried to like put that onto this foundation, you know, and it's like, all right, if this company sees value in what I'm doing, let's keep doing it. But how do we refine it? If I'm going to keep posting videos on YouTube, how do I figure out the analytics of this? How do I title the videos better? How do I thumbnail them better? How
Yeah.
do I, if I'm going to do this, like how does this actually become feasible and viable? So I guess to answer your question, it's like, I want to be able to build cars like the 1000 SP with my dad for however long I get to do that, and hopefully be able to make a living doing it. Because I deliberately chose to not work on other people's cars because I saw how much that wore on my dad, trying to keep good help in the shop, have to deal with customers. And then on the
Yep.
fabrication end, the custom stuff he did in our home shop, uh chasing people for money, visions changing, you know, clients are, let's do this instead, you know, and I just saw him always like just pulling his hair out. And I know that that's where it's not really easy money, but that's where the money is. It's like I could promote tomorrow that Ludwick's Garage is now taking on client work, and I'd probably have a car in here by the weekend to bag it.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I think, well, is it worth hiring someone to do that? But then it's like, well, maybe I work harder at just keeping it just me, maybe hiring someone to help film or edit when I feel it's time. But to just keep doing what I'm doing, but hopefully hopefully just continues to grow between, and I hate peddling merch and stuff, but my buddy Rafe from Montana, who does all my design work now, we've tried to funnel ourselves or funnel Ludwig's Garage into the best merch ever. It's not cheap. We're selling expensive stuff. It's the best shirts. It's the best hats. It's embroidered things. It's embellishments here and there. I do most of the laser cutting and laser engraving for all the hard goods we make.
I'll put a link in the show notes too if anybody wants to pick up something from John. I know I ordered a shirt.
Thank you.
So
I
you bet.
appreciate it.
I'm sure it'll be on the way eventually here soon now that you're home.
I think just making a brand that is rooted in family heritage, has substance to it. It's not, I don't want to be a YouTuber. It's not just, I kind of am by default now. It's not about being a YouTuber. I had an opportunity to like sign posters when I was riding BMX, you know, and it's like, I wasn't chasing an attention thing. It's seeing those comments of people being like, you don't know how good you have it working with your dad. It's like, it's hard to convey through a screen, but like the fiber of working on your car with your dad, or a lawnmower or a sewing machine.
Anything.
It's so Ludwig's Garage is like, I mean, my dad's business was Ludwick's Service Center. The script logo, like on my hat here, was his logo in 1978. Like it's him. It's my family's heritage, you know, and to carry the torch of how my dad was putting food on the table, but in my own way. I don't want to work on other people's cars. So how can I make money working on my own cars? That's through content creation and selling merch. But is it just Gildan shirts? No, it's like good merch. So it's hard to like convey that when it's
I get it, man.
A read through in a YouTube video being like, link in the video description below. It's like, that sounds like you'll like and subscribe. It's like, unfortunately, that's what it takes.
Yeah, that's is that the back of the shirt I ordered?
So
or is that a poster? What is
very
this?
similar. So that's the poster that we gave out at SEMA in the Rova booth. So that's a little bit more Rova forward.
You got to send me one of those.
I will, absolutely. I've got a whole bunch. But that's the shirt. The garage that Rafe drew, that's my father's garage. That's the porcelain-sided 1950s city service building that still stands in my hometown of Meredith, New Hampshire right now. And that, so to just solidify what I was just saying, it's like we put my dad's garage, which says Ludwick Service Center, on the garage, which it used to say back when my dad was running his business out of it.
What is it now? What is this? What is it used for? Is it a coffee shop or something?
It was, dude, I wish I wish I had the money to buy that place when he sold it. He sold it in like 2017. He bought it in 95. quick synopsis. It was built in like 1950, 49 or 50.
Yep.
Porcelain sided City Service, which is the company that became Citgo in like the 60s or 70s, late 60s. So City Service stuff is like super rare. And oddly enough, my dad collects City Service parts and memorabilia, and he oddly enough owned a building. So the City Service logos were baked into that porcelain, as they did with porcelain signs. They baked the logos in. So everyone that painted over it, decade after decade after decade after decade, you can strip all that paint off, but what's baked into that porcelain like resides.
Yeah.
Right. And so ultimately, my dad swept the floors of that place in the mid 1970s when he was in high school, or was like firstly married to my mom in 1975. They just celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary last month. He used to sweep floors in that shop and pump gas. And then in 1995, he bought the place because he'd started his business in 78. And in 95, bought the building, bought the property, ran Ludwick Service Center out of that building. In 2005, he closed the business down because he couldn't keep good help. And it was just on verge of a mental breakdown. He shut the business down and then rented the garage out to another business until 2017 when he sold it. And so right now, as we speak, the building's derelict.
No.
It's not derelict. It's my dad was repairing that place year after year after year, fixing the leaks in the roof, repairing the back wall structurally. It needs to be torn down. That's the building there. Yeah, with the City Service logo baked into it. About 5 years before he sold the building, he still owned it, and we just used it for storage.
Oh, it's
and
so
that
cool,
right
man.
that photo there is the last day he owned it. We had a little cars and coffee meet, and a whole bunch of local hot rodders came and just hung out and kind of like revolving doored through the day. We just hung out there all day before they closed on selling it. But it stands today. But what's really cool, we need to make sure we follow through with this. In the contract when he sold it, is the porcelain siding is my dad's. He kept the porcelain siding and the overhead doors. And it's a reminder now of us talking about it that I need to make sure we go soon and get a lawyer about that, to just because the building needs to come down, and whoever owns it now, who he sold it to, needs to remember that we need to take all that siding off before they start putting it in a dumpster. Because I want to encapsulate a building with that siding one day and rebuild that City Service building, and whatever my dad doesn't sell, he's got a double-sided porcelain City Service sign. I'd rebuild a City Service station and run Ludwick's garage out of it. That's like a period correct type store where it's like we sell our merch, but there's revolving cars on display in a gallery.
I want something like that so bad for Overcrest too. I want a spot. I want a spot to do the podcast, have some merch, hang out, like a co-working space for me and the team.
You ask what end game is. That's
end game for me too, man. I would love to be able to do something like that.
That's so end bad. Game is and I guess the end game would be to do it in a building that has that skin on it, the old City Service building. So 3-bay shop, walk-in retail store for Ludwick's garage, podcast studio, where I actually build the cars. And maybe not. Maybe that's just the retail space. And that's where some of my cars are on display, or other people's cars. And 1 month out of the year, it's Japanese cars, and we do a Shakotan style vibe for the month. And it's like a coffee shop.
And then whoever's in there is maybe they have their own brand. They can have a rack.
Yes.
They can have a rack for sale and sell their shirts, and
yep.
It's open on Saturday mornings or something.
Yeah, exactly. Just like what the Motoring Club has done, or what all these other people have done with some of these
Period Correct is kind of similar, I guess, in a way.
Yes, but also if you get the space, it's you've got a membership thing going on where people have access to the shop, or I don't know. That's end game. Is to
how does Rova feel about having to display a city bus in their booth at SEMA next year? That's going to be a big booth. They better pony up.
We did joke about the bus possibly being outside because it's just so big. It's 31 feet long.
Could you imagine that square foot cost on that booth? Woo,
dude. And so I guess, and I know we could talk about this forever, but to touch on SEMA real quick.
Yeah.
Excuse me. The car getting there, being in the booth, and the surreal feeling that it's happened. It's here. It's aired out in the booth in Central Hall of all places. Like not North Hall, not West Hall, not South Hall upper where all the tools are. It's like it's in the Mecca. It's across the aisle from Larry Chen's booth, who's the featured artist of SEMA. It's 2 booths down from Chip Foose's booth. It's like a high trafficked area. And to see the nonstop crowds around that car and to see the look on Ken and all the Rova team members' faces that there was just, there was constant crowds in the booth. It was like such a relief to me that we were able to pull it off. That like, not only
you didn't let him down, man. You did
yeah,
him right.
I mean, and that's serious to me. The whole way I was actually worried about that.
Yeah.
And God bless Ken and all that whole team, because they were like always trying to put the fire out. They're like, don't worry about it. And but to have day one, and say what you will about this dude, but like day one, Richard Rawlings and the whole Gas Monkey crew and their entourage are in the booth, mind blown over the car. And Richard's trying to buy it from me. And yeah, that's his thing. But it came to what's the I don't want to sell it price for the car. And it's I don't know what to tell you, man. I don't want to sell it. And then the personal phone number with a handshake gets passed to me. And he's like, call me. And I'm like, I probably won't, but okay. The whole time knowing that it's probably could be life-changing money, could be. And then his assistant bringing up the rear as they left, being like, I've never seen him this jazzed about a car before. Like he's going to be persistent about it. To then Bucky Lassick hanging out in the booth with us, who's become like a quick friend, like literally the whole rest of the week we're like hanging out. And then dude, on Thursday, Chip Foose is hanging out in the booth, like hanging out, talking to us about the car. And
this is interest paid, man. This is interest paid on personal capital and work.
I want to, if you've got a minute, I want to talk about the Chip Foose thing real quick.
Yeah, absolutely.
I got to pee really bad, and I know you guys probably don't take breaks on these. So
hey, I'll mark it. Go pee. Okay. Go get
done. No, it's fine. It's fine. We're rolling. I'm good.
We're rolling? Good. All right. He's going to hold it. He's letting it go right now. It's warm.
So what's funny is leading up to SEMA, Ken and all the guys saying, it's cool as it is. Bring it as it is. Don't stress. Get your sleep. Just bring it as it is. My response to that, to not just Ken, but to my dad, to Kayla, to everyone, and they can all witness this. Every single time my response was, and this was for just sheer lack of a better name in the industry, all I said was, what if Chip Foose looks in this car? What's he going to think? Is he going to see, even if it's something he's not like aligned with style wise, is he going to see work that someone put their best foot forward to bring the SEMA? Or is he going to see something unfinished because someone took the easy way out and thought, I'm tired, I think I'll sleep now? Or I'm going to bring on more commission work because I need to pay my bills. Or did someone say, this is an opportunity, I'm going to work as hard as I can to get this car done, right? And what's funny is I kept saying, what if Chip Foose looks at my car? What if Chip, not knowing that his booth was going to be 2 booths down, not knowing that my car was going to be in Central Hall, none of that. I just it was a first name.
What did he say about the car?
So what happened was I realized the car was in Central Hall. And then when I looked at the floor plan for the year, like 3 weeks, a month ago, I saw that Chip Foose's booth was like 2 booths down. And I'm thinking, oh boy, he might actually see the car. So day one, Tuesday, now I've seen Chip at SEMA before, and I've seen him at concourse events. He's always on the move. Kayla's met him. Kayla's actually been to his shop many years ago. They did like a Volkswagen, like an R32 or a Volkswagen Golf project. Chip did, and she was a part of that in one way or another. So Kayla kind of has seen him as well at some of these events, and I've seen him over the years at concourse events. And he's always got to go here for a signing, got to go there for a meet and greet. Oh, you got to go there and speak. And his wife and his handlers are always moving him. He's always on the move, whether or not he looks tired or not or optimistic. He's just always on the move, right? So Tuesday, day one, I see him and his crew walk by, and they're kind of moving fast. And I see him looking at the car. He's just looking down at the car and then looks up and they keep walking. And then later in the day, he's walking by a different direction and he looks down and looks at the car. Doesn't stop. You can tell they're headed to the booth to do the meet and greet, or they're headed here or there.
That guy's on a mission at all times.
Always a schedule to keep. And when you're that prolific of a person in that industry, you're there because you have a schedule to keep. You know, you've got sponsors and whatever. So Wednesday, he walks by the booth with his crew and he's looking at the car, and he does it a couple more times Wednesday. And I tell Kayla, I said, you see Chip looking at the car as he walks by every time? She's like, yeah. I said, I wonder what he's thinking. Like, I wonder, like, from a
he's thinking,
car.
Does that thing have any spark plug wires in it? That's what
Yeah.
he's thinking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I was just curious, as a car visionary, someone who can take a blank piece of paper and draw a car and then build that car. That's crazy. Say what you will about the drama on overhauling or whatever. The guy's a car visionary. He's an artist and he's a car builder, right? Yep. So, and even if you don't like the style or the wheels or whatever, like the guy, he's there for a real reason. And yeah, Richard Rawlings created what he created, and he buys and sells cars, and he's got a crew of guys that modify cars. But Chip is a car builder, right? So I'm actually interested what he thinks when he's looking at my car when he walks by it. But I appreciate his time, and I'm not stopping him. I see him coming. He's got somewhere to be. I'm curious what he's thinking. Thursday morning, I'm standing in the aisle out in front of the booth talking to somebody, and out of my peripheral vision comes a group of people, and I step out of the way to just get out of the way. And I look over my shoulder as they pass by me, and it's Chip and his crew, and he's walking backwards in front of them, talking to them. And he gestures to my car and he goes, and this is our next project. And I go, hey man, hey, go easy. Like, you know, it's just like, that's a joke, because it sounded like he was roasting the car. So I just jokingly, you know, it was clear I wasn't actually mad. I was like, hey man, take it easy. And he quickly says, no man, I love it. And they keep walking. And I was like, all right, I'm sorry. That was it. Right. So that was our first interaction. And it was natural because I kind of got out of his way. And then he said something about the car that I heard. So I was like, hey, bro,
it's an open door. Yeah.
Right. So that was our first interaction, but I let it go. I didn't try to take any of his time or stop him.
Yeah, you're fanboying hard. I love it. He's a legend. How could you not?
Yeah. That's the discernment, right? So
yeah, he's a legend.
Because I don't get starstruck. Like I really don't. Because and I'm not bunny trailing here, but it sounds weird telling or even saying this, I guess. But the first time I ever met Dave Mira, he knew who I was, and that like blew my mind. And I think shattered all starstruckness I would ever have, because I played Dave Mira's video game.
Right.
And now I'm on a ramp with him at a skate park, and I go to introduce myself, and he's like, I love all your front wheel tricks. Like, he knew what kind of stuff I did on my bike. And I was like, oh, we're just two guys that ride bikes. Yep. So now with cars, Chip's just another guy that likes cars.
In the end, it boils down to that.
Yes. So that's where I'm at. So honestly, that's where I'm at. Yeah, I'm fanboying because I like that he took the time to even acknowledge my car.
Yeah.
But it is just two car guys, right? So we have that interaction, right? So later in the day, I have a good line of sight 2 booths down. I just so happen to be zoning out looking that way. And Chip and his crew come around the corner coming towards us. And from 2 booths away, he's pointing at my car and gesturing to his guys, and he's talking, right? So as they're approaching from like 2 aisles away, they're talking about my car. He's pointing at it. He's looking at his guys, his assistants, or his car, you know, his employees, whatever. And he's there's context here. He's talking. He didn't just point and nod. He's like talking about the car. So I thought, all right, this is when I intercept and I actually like engage him about the car. Because I just want to ask him, like, what do you think?
What do you think? Yeah.
Or whatever. I didn't even think that. They're coming. They're at the booth now. And I step out into the aisle and I went, hey man, I'm really sorry if I went too hard on you this morning. I just wanted to make sure you weren't roasting me too hard. And he goes, no man, like, it's the most bitchin' car here. And I was like, excuse me, what? And he's like, no, I love it. Like, and so at that point, they like stopped and they're just hanging out with us. Right. So we're talking about the car, and he's like Auto Union. And I was like, yeah, pre-Audi, talking to him about Auto Union and how, I nerded out about, I can't believe someone bought one of these at a Studebaker dealership. And he's like, I know, it's crazy. Like, oh, and so we're now just 2 car dudes chopping it up about Auto Union. And then it turns into what I did to the car. He's like, man, like, slamming it down low to the ground like that was the move. And I was like, thanks, man. Like, that's all, it's like kind of my thing.
Yeah.
And I kid you not, he goes, you know something? I saw a car at the bank the other day, And it was really cool. I'd never seen him before. I think you'd appreciate it. He goes, well, so he pulls out his phone and he's just as boomer as me. These are the photos. Kayla is firing these photos off while this is happening. And if for anyone watching, it's like there's a carousel of photos of Chip talking to us. Yeah. So we're looking at our phones. His wife is like really into, you can see her. She's like,
oh, yeah, she's digging it.
Oh yeah. So Chip goes, I saw this car at the bank the other day. That's him in his phone looking through his camera roll. He can't find the photo, right? So he's going to me. He's going, oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. It's right here somewhere. And I was like, Chip, we're good. Like this, I have nowhere else to be. He's like, and I'm watching him scroll.
Car.
Oh, it's like dog. It's like normal camera.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's cool. Like, I'll wait. I'll wait. Well, as long as you want to scroll through your photos, I'll wait. And God is my witness. He finds the photo. He's like, oh yeah. So I saw this at, I can't even believe this. He goes, I saw this at the bank the other day. How cool is this? And it's a BMW 700. And I went, Chip, buckle up, buddy. I got something to show you. And I show him my body dropped one. And he's grabbing his assistants. He's like, look, it's that car I saw the other day. Like, oh, he already did one. And his assistant's like trying to get his glasses out. And Chip's like, look, he's like, I'm trying. Oh man, that's so sick. And so they were geeking out. Oh, when he showed me his phone, there was like this like hot wave of heat that went over me. I was like, buckle up, buddy. I'm about to show you something. Yeah, and that's the 700 there. So that was the coolest moment because Chip was like, check this out. Isn't this cool? I've never seen one before. And I was like, I already did one. So then the conversation turned into the bus. And I was like, well, if you like that, and you know what's funny is I never showed him the Corvair, which is the car I should have showed him because we chopped the roof. We like did kind of like a Chip Foose thing to it, but left the patina. And I didn't think about that at the moment, but I showed him the bus. And he was so jazzed about the bus. He's like, "Are you gonna like drop it?" So I'm like, "Yeah, I'm gonna slam that
obviously.
thing right."
Yeah, obviously.
And he's like into it because he's like talking about what he would do to the bus. And we had like a few minutes to actually talk about. He's like, "Oh man, I'd make that thing front wheel drive and make the rear open like an old Airbus and drive your cars inside." I'm like, "Dude, that'd be so sick!" Like, but I'm gonna turn it into my mobile merch store. And he's like, "Oh, that's killer." He's like, "Oh, you can go inside and buy merch at shows and stuff." I'm like, "Yeah." And so then he gets back to his camera roll, right? And he's like, I got to show you something. I got to do something else here. And he's scrolling. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm scrolling. So I'm like, it's cool. We're still chilling. It's like 20 minutes in at this point. And none of the guys are like, we got to go, Chip. They're all just like, we're all just having a good time, like talking about cars and laughing and stuff. And he looks so long for this thing. And I was like, well, what is it, Chip? He goes, well, it's a bus that one of my buddies has behind his shop. And I've always wanted to buy it. It's an old Greyhound bus like yours. And I've always wanted to buy it and make it like a permanent fixture in my backyard as like a guest house or something, just like something cool that's just like a permanent fixture of the yard. And I was like, oh, it's pretty cool. And he goes, this is when it was like, not fanboy. I felt like we were friends. He goes, he wouldn't do it. And agree with me if you agree. He goes, he's scrolling. He goes, you know what? I'll look for the photo later tonight and I'll put it to the front of the camera roll and I'll come back later and I'll show you. And I was like, sounds good, man. Like, sounds good. Like he was willing to like, it was important enough to like go look for the photo later to come back and show me a photo of like this bus. And
it's tough, man. When you're in places like this, it's hard to make genuine connections with people because all of the interactions are so fast.
Yeah.
Well, they're at like for me, it's like if you're at a show like Luft or something like that, and you're talking to people about, Overcrest or podcasts or whatever, it's all these very bite-sized conversations, right? And and they're all fleeting. They're all very fast. It's the same thing at SEMA. See somebody, how's it going? What are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. Gone. Over and over and over.
They're elastic, go right
gone.
Back to where it
so
was.
Having like genuine connection with people in these environments, I think is rare. And I think maybe he probably felt the same way you do about having a nice connection with somebody,
Yeah, I'd like to think so because he seemed comfortable. Because we were just chatting about cool old cars. Like I didn't want his autograph. We didn't get a selfie. Kayla was standing like 5 or 6 feet away, like further in the booth, but it was clear. I was engaging with her when we were talking, kind of talked about that she'd been to the shop before, his shop or whatever. And Another notable part of this interaction was there was like a little bit of a huddle going on, like a half circle huddle, and Kayla was outside of that a little bit, but engaged in the conversation in one way or another. And Chip stepped out of that huddle to shake her hand and introduce himself. And then his wife did too. His wife stepped out of that huddle and introduced herself to Kayla. And it wasn't one of those fleeting moments, because there's a place to stand in line at a meet and greet, but you get 30 seconds with the person and they're saying the same thing. Where are you from? You know what? They sign the thing, you get a quick selfie. So nice to meet you. Oh, I love you on that TV show. And they leave. And if that's your only interaction with the guy, that's great. You know, you got a chance to see him. But like, for me, the most meaningful part of the car being at SEMA was the 20 minutes I got to just chill and hang out with Chip. Like, he enjoyed the car. And the next morning on Friday, we were there early before doors open. So it was just, a few people in the hall, and Kayla and I were just in the booth, and him and his wife by themselves without his assistants or handlers or anything were walking to their booth, and they walked by the booth, and Chip looked at me and he nodded and he said, "Good morning." And I said, "Good morning." And then his wife said, "Good morning" too. And it was just like I didn't try to command more of his time. It was just, we were just like, "Hey, what's going on?" And it was just cool. I don't know. It was just,
it's validating, right?
Yeah,
and
sure.
when someone that is, I think if I built something and someone like him was like, "Dude, that's pretty cool," I would feel really good.
Yeah,
You'd feel really,
that.
really good about that. And, being able to have that natural interaction is neat, especially for some people that are so busy that when they take the time to slow down because of something that you've done, it feels good, man. It feels good for sure.
And I mean, that feeling resounded through the whole week with everyone that came up to the car. It blew my mind how many people at SEMA came up to the booth and said they were subscribers on the YouTube channel, or they watched the videos. That was actually surprising to me. At car shows,
why would it be surprising? You got thousands of people watch what you do, man. Why does it shock you?
Because I think I'm lost in the minutia of how to make it all work. I have to stop what I'm doing to remember to film an intro to the episode, film an outro. Oh, did I take a thumbnail photo? And then I'm editing the videos and I'm staring at it for hours, 10, 12 hours an episode or whatever.
Alone.
And then I upload it. And then
it's tough to remember, dude, when you upload that and you look at it's got 25,000 views. That's, imagine, I think about stats too, with podcast or whatever.
I think my battery died.
Your battery died. That's okay. We still got you on audio. We'll wrap it up here in a minute. Every single one of those people, or those numbers, is a people. All of those thousands, 25. Imagine 25,000 people in a room. That's like a football stadium, like a college football stadium of people that are watching you and what you do. And you should take a lot of pride in that, man. You've built something cool. You're building a brand that's cool. I'm really looking forward to seeing where things go.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
And I can't wait to hang out in that bus. It's gonna be fun.
Dude, I can't either. The last thing, because I'm sure some people were wondering, the last thing, or the next on the channel is buttoning the 1000 SP up. I'd like to get like the mechanicals sorted out, but I'm going to start on that red DKW Junior barn find.
Okay.
Because the bus won't fit in my shop. It won't fit in my dad's shop.
What are you supposed to do? Work in like freezing ass thermal underwear?
Yeah. The plan was to start on that bus this spring and work on it through this winter and get a full head of steam on that project. And then the whole SEMA thing happened. And I almost said no, just because I was so sick of working on that 1000 SP. That car there, the car that's the one that sat, and we talked about this car already, but that's the one that sat in a barn 40 minutes north of me here in New Hampshire for 62 years. And no one even knew it was in there. So I'm going to start on that car.
Did you ever get the motor freed up on that thing?
I didn't, but it's been sitting since January with acetone and ATF sitting in that thing. So I'm hoping we can return to it, even though I'm going to do an
I know, but it'd be cool to try and get it running,
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So that might be what happens next. But the winter months, I'm going to be working on that car. And then in the spring, we'll dive into the bus like pretty full time. But yeah, it's been a crazy ride, man. And
well, hold on. It's not over yet. You're still going. It's a crazy ride. John, I really appreciate you hanging out with me, dude. It's been fun as always.
Thank you for having me, dude. I really
I'll
appreciate it.
I'll try and get out there this winter. I'll turn a
Do it.
wrench with you.
Do it. We can put a shovel in your hand. You can help us shovel snow.
I don't. I got my own snow to shovel here.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, Minnesota.
I don't
Oh,
need that character building. I've already done that.
it's worth it being close to family, but yeah, Lord knows I wish we were somewhere warmer.
All right, man. Take care. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it.